Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the webcast, High Visibility Leadership Habits for Women. This webcast has been pre-approved for HRCI and SHRM credits. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast in order to receive your credits. If you have any questions during the webcast, click on Q&A in your webinar controls and type them in. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Fiona Passantino to get us started.
Thanks so much, Kathy. And thank you to everybody at hr.com for their amazing organization. Happy Women's Day. This is a fun, good day for us females. And to all the men out there, thank you so much for being here. You can just go ahead and drop in the chat where you're coming in from. If you are a man, extra points for you. Welcome. I am coming in from The Hague in the Netherlands. And I see we have Florida. We've got, I know Ball Ground, Georgia. I know. My mother lives in Ackworth, Georgia. So that's literally down the street. That's amazing. Portland, Oregon, New Jersey, California, Canada, Peachtree City, also very close to the airport in Atlanta. Very nice. New Hampshire, Indiana, Connecticut, Philly, Kansas City. Lots of American voices. Fantastic. Thank you for joining. I'm going to jump into our very first poll question. So while people are getting settled, we can also ponder a question. We're talking about leadership today and specifically what women bring. We bring some real gifts. We have some demons that we work with as well. So I'm curious to hear what your vote is. What is the most important thing we need at work from a leader? And this is regardless of gender. This is just any leader altogether. All right. So I'm going to start by introducing something really exciting that hr.com is launching today, which is a new group called the Women in Leadership Alliance. And this is an inclusive alliance. The idea is to empower women in the workplace, offering a platform for us all to come together and advocate for our shared goals. We're going to talk a little bit about the challenges we face, but mostly keep it as a place where we can discuss the things that are important front of mind. And we're all here to advance positivity and change in the workplace. Great. So I see Kathy just put the link in there. Wonderful. And I'm going to let our organizers of this committee, this new group, introduce themselves. This idea is going to be a monthly webinar on issues that are interesting to us, all, also men. And this will change over once a month, about an hour, and then also a platform for people to network and get to know each other. So first person is Christina, who's here today.
Thank you, Fiona. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. I see we have people from all over the world. Happy International Women's Day, and thank you very much for joining us here on this webinar, and thank you, Fiona, for that kind introduction. I'm thrilled to be part of the team that is working together to put together the Women's Alliance for HR.com and all of its members, and hope that all of you will consider joining. I bring over 25 years of corporate leadership experience, and my last role was as the CMO of Ceridian, which if you are in the HCM space, hopefully you're familiar with. I was part of the Dayforce team that was acquired, and I know Ceridian is in the process of changing its name to Dayforce now. I'm also a certified executive coach with both IPEC and ICF certification. And right now I do spend part of my time as a CMO in residence for the Mars Discovery District, helping to grow tech companies to over 100 million. I founded a company called Excel, specifically focused on women in leadership, and that's how I spend my time. It is a personal passion and mission for me to help get as many women to the top as possible and to help them just be supported and successful along the way. So really happy to be part of this team. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I have my QR code there. You can just take a picture. I would love to see you on LinkedIn so that we can stay connected and grow our networks. And I'll be speaking at the next session as well after Fiona, and look forward to seeing you there. Thanks, Fiona.
Thanks so much, Christina. Really look forward to this partnership. And for the next victim, I'm very happy to introduce Simone, my partner in crime here from Holland.
Hi, thank you so much. Happy International Women's Day, everybody. I am Australian, based, as Fiona said, in the Netherlands. I'm actually in Amsterdam. I've got 20 plus years human resources experience, 10 plus years in global roles, and experience across a range of different functional areas. So capabilities and passion, and where my impact is really around transformation, and that's leadership transformation, cultural change and transformation of talent strategy and the HR function itself. So really actually working with them to improve their credibility and performance. I'm passionate about HR interventions being connected to the business strategy. I think too often they're not. So that's a really big piece for me that's important. I have a coaching certification. I use it in a slightly different way. I work with small businesses. So I work with scale-ups, startups as a passion project to support them on their journeys. I'm an anti-bullying advocate, having been on the wrong side of that, so I feel very passionately. And in my free time, I'm an interior designer.
Super. I didn't even know that. You're going to come to my house, Simone, and you're going to help me because this thing is like, I have a screen here. It's a mess.
No
And-
problem. So
Cool.
thank you, and very much looking forward to seeing everyone at this session and future sessions. And thank you, Christina and Fiona.
Awesome, Simone. Thank you. So my name is Fiona Passantino. I'm a speaker, trainer, facilitator, and coach. I specialize in AI integration and also leadership and empowerment, especially empowerment of the non-technical community. So if you are an engineer or an IT person, I'm basically not really talking to you, but talking to people who are in the HR admin communication roles. And my real purpose is to try to bring more human creativity, joy, and connection in the workplace. So normally I talk about AI integration, but today this is a topic really very close to my heart. And so what I'm going to give another real push for the guys out there. Thank you again so much for coming, and please consider joining this alliance. This alliance, to make it really work, we need everybody. So without further ado, here is the code to join up. Join our little group. We get together once a month to talk about issues. I have speakers coming in about really nice topics, really interesting ones. You have the chance to connect, to learn also from each other, and put forth your issues in this group as well. So please do consider joining. All right. There's a link in there as well for people who like to do it that way as well. All right, let's go and get started. Who are you? If you're here today, you're a leader, you are an authentic, dedicated person, and you have a working community. Your people are all the people who are working in your sphere. We usually call it, employees or team or community, but in fact, what we're making is working community. Your job when you're faced with your community is to take a group of people, to inform them, to engage them, to inspire them, support them, empower them, and connect them. That is the job of any leader. And in your case, let's say, in the case of many people who work in complex international organizations, these are very often a collection of diverse people who are coming from all over the place. These are professionals, each with their own specialization, and take this kind of bunch, some hybrid, some working in the office, some working completely offsite without ever having the expectation of coming into the office, to turn that into a community. That is the job of a leader. And it's a very hard job, and it gets harder all the time as our working environment shifts. So we're basically here to build bridges. That's our role. Now, let's see, I just, I've already introduced myself, so I'll skip over this. Just to add, I do also have a podcast. I talk about a lot of these issues there. You're welcome to check that out. And what I do in my free time is create comic books about working life. I feel comic books are a great way to talk about difficult subjects, about communication and employee engagement. But these are very serious topics, even if the comic book format is lighter. So when you're talking about building bridges in your community and becoming a leader, this is our terrain. This is our sort of landscape at the moment. We're having a bit of an engagement issue. We're still dealing with low numbers of engagement, even after we've come back from the pandemic. Our state of engagement, our disengagement has gone up. Our engagement has gone down pretty steadily, even as we return to work and even as we bring a lot of our hybrid rules back with us. Our disengagement, our active dissatisfaction with how we're working is actually going up. And what's happening? We are quitting. We're still quitting in very large numbers. The turnover is higher now than it was pre-pandemic. We find that this kind of great resignation that we were all dealing with right around the pandemic, that is still happening, and it's been growing since about 2009. So this is not a new phenomenon, but we're just starting to notice it in the pandemic. And since then, we had a bit of a blip right at the peak of the pandemic that people were not quitting in such large numbers. But then the numbers have just been steadily going back ever since. And the funny, interesting thing about quitting is it's not just all about physically leaving our jobs. We're also mentally, emotionally leaving our jobs. And this is something that leaders of all genders have to deal with, is that this phenomenon of quiet quitting, where we're kind of retracting as an employee, we're doing the bare minimum just to kind of, be physically present in our chairs, but not going the extra mile, not being inspired, not being fully engaged in what we do. A lot of this is actually exacerbated by the advent of AI, because now it's a little bit unclear what our roles are. And we're looking at a year of fairly large layoffs due to AI. So this kind of lack of engagement at work we're going to see, I believe, more of this in the year to come. Now, why are we doing this? Why are we quitting? Most of the time when we quit, we're quitting because of a boss. And these numbers are the same as they've always been. About 82% of us, when we leave because our manager isn't seeing us, isn't hearing us, doesn't support us, doesn't believe in us, doesn't make us feel like we have a future there. And this is something, regardless of whether you're a female or a male leader, this is pretty evident across all fields. And how does this come about? Well, a lot of people in the community really don't feel like they belong. And this isn't necessarily because we're all hybrid or we're all over the place, but basically 20% of us are feeling like we don't really fit in. Kathy, I think we have some poll results from the first poll. I didn't know if you were able to show that there. Let's see if we can get that in. All right, great. So this basically corresponds with a lot of what we were hearing in the last few slides. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. That is really number one. We want to see that people are investing in us in our future. Salary is not a big deal, honestly. We are willing to take cuts in salary if we have that emotional landscape to work in. That's much more important. Support, encouragement. Oh, I see. That's absolutely number one. Wow. Yeah. So you're looking at emotional issues that keep us in our job much more than the targets, the tasks, the salary, the all of the other remunerables. This is telling to me. Thanks so much, Kathy. That's really super, really interesting. Great. So leadership. A chair is mostly empty space, but we trust it to hold our weight. We can sit in it. We can stub our toe on it. We can walk around it. We can stand on it to get stuff on a high shelf. Now, and leadership is the same way. We trust it because we can see it. It's something that's there. It's physically there. We see our leaders. We trust it. Now, a chair is mostly empty space held together by electrons, particles moving at very high speeds. A lot of energy is holding together something that's basically empty. And leadership is like this too, right? We see it, we feel it. We feel the energy that's holding it in place. Leadership is invisible. It's mostly empty space. It's between our ears. We see it, we feel it because of the energy that we put into it. That we have this ability to see something that isn't there. A lot of times our leaders are not there. We know that they are in the building with us. They obviously take the elevator, they drink coffee like the rest of us, but somehow we never see them. They kind of live in this little bubble where they go magically from their cars into the elevator without ever, their feet not touching the ground. We never run into them, just randomly in the hallways. That we need to see them in order to feel that they are there, because it's energy that's holding it together. It's energy that holds us to our leaders. So these kinds of missing in action CEOs that we come across, this is telling a story to our working community that we're not actually present for them. Now, it used to be okay quite some time ago. It's starting to not really be okay. If we look back at what was important leadership skills maybe 10 years ago, we see a very different set of skills than we do today. What was important then, this kind of command and control, decisiveness, being authoritative, being about results, having a competitive mindset, understanding knowing everything without asking for help, without looking weak, let's say, having a clear vision that was articulated within the brain of that sole person and projecting it outwards without necessarily caring whether it lands. That was this kind of strong leadership, resilience, stress management, this sort of thing. Now, what is more important nowadays for leaders? What is termed, a good leader? New things. We like leaders who are collaborative. We like leaders who are able to form connections. We like the process orientation rather than the results orientation. We like leaders who are able to include everybody, especially people who are different, who make them feel like they belong. People who are able to delegate, to pass off some of these high profile tasks to other people who listen, people who have creativity, and so on. If you look at the kinds of things that leaders are doing now that are more highly prized, what does this tell us females? Well, the landscape is shifting, and it's shifting in our favor. The kinds of skills and attributes that women often bring to roles of leadership, it's shifting to our strengths, to our areas of strengths, and this is what I love to tell female executives everywhere, is that time is on our side. And what are these superpowers that women bring to the table? Now, I understand this is kind of painting with a broad stroke, so big apologies if this lands the wrong way, but what do women do really well traditionally? We are trained by society, by who we are, to be more collaborative, to value that connection, to be about the process and inclusion. And we take joy in delegation and mentoring and supporting. We have this kind of urge to bring everybody along with us in this kind of leadership, this leadership style. And that brings us to one more little poll while we wait. I don't know, Kathy, if you have time to throw up that next one. How do I handle negative feedback from the team? Okay, so this has to do with leadership style. We all have to deal with negative feedback. Sometimes it's spoken, written, sometimes it's unspoken, but there are certain ways that people deal with it. So I'm just curious to hear how people deal with that. And this will be, we're going to, Kathy, we're going to come back to this one in a few slides down when we're talking about superpowers and demons. So I'll give you guys a chance to vote on this one, and then we will continue on with our 5 easy ways to leverage girl power in leadership. Thanks so much for that, Kathy. That's great. All right, so we're just going to run through 5 really easy tips, quick things that you can start doing already tomorrow to raise your visibility as a leader and become more of that visible object held together by great amounts of energy that people will understand and feel. The first tip is to walk among people, is to take the time, really schedule it out to talk to people, making small talk. This is a strategic decision. This is something that you can schedule in just like a team meeting. It's as important as that. It doesn't have to take a long time. It doesn't have to be very profound. You can talk about the weather. It doesn't matter. But the point is to be visibly out walking and running into people during high traffic times, not to like sneak out 5 minutes when you know nobody's there. No, specifically choose high traffic moments, that 11 o'clock coffee moment when everybody's heading for the canteen for the muffin, or the 4 p.m. I need my snack, everybody's heading for the snack bar moment when you know that, or the lunch rush, or the moment right when people come into the office, to be present, to welcome people as they're there, talk to people, and be seen talking to people. That's almost as important as the talking itself. Now, why do you want to do this? There are different goals to this. First of all, it's good to gather the information. This is good, interesting information. What are your names? Who are you? What kind of job do you do here? Are you happy? Do you have other ideas? You're building trust. These are the things, these little kinds of conversations are tiny stones towards building trust. You're also showing other leaders how it's done. This is setting an example for everybody, is that leadership is about people and it's about being among people and being seen. And this is a way to influence the culture. Culture is not just a statement that you hang on the wall. Culture is a verb. Culture is something that you cultivate every single day. And little steps that you make as a leader make a big difference for everybody else. So what do you say? Well, it doesn't have to be much. Start with hello. Start with I like to say lead with lunch. What are you eating? What are you having for lunch? What will you eat for a snack? Are you drinking coffee or tea? Little silly stuff. And then people, when they start to open up and trust, they'll start to talk about their family life. They might start to talk about the fact that they have kids or that they don't have kids. But you're there with them, you're sharing space. You don't have to share anything personal if you don't want to. The point is to just be authentic and a very human level to engage. The next thing I like to tell people is to really be engaged, really be present when you are part of a meeting or even when you're with a one-to-one. It's very discouraging for leaders to kind of fly out of body and do this, be on their text, on their phone, etc., when you're actually having a conversation. The text can wait. I tend to go for 45-minute meetings rather than the full hour so that I can batch check emails or take on those texts or those urgent things that can't wait. But if I compress my meeting time to 45 minutes, you have my full attention for those 45 minutes. And the 15 minutes after, that's when I do my texting and my emailing and so on. But being present is really, really, really critical. Because if you're not present, you're also showing your team that it's acceptable for everybody to kind of fly off out of body. It's very demotivating. And if you're not present in our head, in your body when you're in a meeting, there's kind of no point to having the meeting in the first place. And checking out and checking in and out, you think that you're kind of understanding everything of what's going on. And in fact, that's not the case. When we multitask, and we women, we're kind of guilty of being the multitaskers. I'm like the worst multitasker. We're dumber when we do this. We literally, every time we transition from one brain activity to the other, even if it's for a second of just one text, we lose about 40% of our cognitive ability. It takes 3 to 5 seconds for us to regain that level of cognitive focus when we switch. And if we're switching back and forth, think about, we're constantly in that 40% dumb mode, which means that no matter what we're doing, we're not using our full brain. And leaders need to be sharp. We need to be smart. We need to know what we're doing. And we can't afford that 40% lack of cognitive ability. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick dive into your chat. Looks like people are talking about their experience. Sandra, thank you about talking about remotely. Excellent. Yep. Thank you for all of those notes in there. I really love the engagement. And that brings us, speaking about engagement, this brings us to tip 3, which is engage, jump into the river. This is digital and this is also live. Every company has a kind of a social stream, a digital stream where people like a a LinkedIn where people can post and comment and so on. It's very, very encouraging for leaders to join in this stream, whether they're posting themselves or whether they're commenting or replying to what's already out there, congratulating a team on something that they've done, replying to a long thread. It doesn't matter. You're seen. You're seen in the digital space, and become a content creator. Now, the funny thing with high level leadership is most employees, community members, deeply believe that the leaders ought to have a social presence. They ought to be in the stream. They ought to be producing content, mixing it up, getting involved in conversations, adding their 2 cents. And yet, only half of high level leaders have a social presence at all. When they do, they very often delegate that out. They have somebody who does it for them. So they're not speaking in their own authentic voice. They're allowing their comms person to be their executive comms practitioner. Now, this carries a risk because it shows that you're too good to talk to normal people where they are. This is where employees are. They're in the stream. So I do strongly encourage people to spend a few minutes a day engaging digitally with people. And then if you have to do something that's longer form that you don't have time for, that's where you delegate your executive comms. But to do the small stuff yourself, it really, really means a lot. 15 minutes a day, that's a lot even. It doesn't even have to be that much. But the important thing that's you're the one that's doing it. We are hybrid to stay. We are not only hybrid to stay, but we are inclusion. We are including the people who are fully remote. So people who are never in the office at all. So how do we engage this set? This kind of the fully remote person is going to only have the digital channels to connect with their working community. One great way to do it that I always suggest. I used to be an internal comms person for many, many years, and I did executive comms too. And I wish I had this tool when I was a kid, but I used. I got to know Staffbase. They produce a wonderful tool that keeps everything straight. So whether you're doing your own comms or whether you're delegating them out to others, Staffbase is an awesome tool because you can track engagement. You can keep track of everything incoming and outgoing, and it all acts as a layer on top of your Microsoft environment. So in case anybody's interested, go ahead. You can also reach out to me afterwards, and I can put you in touch with my friends there. Their tool is really wonderful. It's also quite robustly supported by AI, so you don't have to do a lot of the writing yourself as a leader. It AI. I mean, I have my feelings about your authentic voice and using AI, but it does save some time. So as long as you're using it wisely, go for it. There are lots of different ways to get involved digitally. There isn't just text. Posting video speaks louder than words. If you have time to make a 3-second video of here's my coffee today, I'm drinking it, here's my view from my office, anything, doesn't really matter. Little tiny details that make you into a human being is great. Audio is kind of the CEO's secret weapon. Producing an in-company podcast is a wonderful way to reach out to people digitally, also crossing that hybrid divide. Visuals, photos, all good. Being a little nuts, being a little crazy, that helps. We like that. We like it when our CEOs, when our leaders are they talk about the fuck up that they had the other night. They talk about the mistakes they made. They reach out. They just post random weird stuff that makes people really, really human. All right, on to the next. Leaders often get into the trap of thinking that we have to do everything ourselves. So when it comes to the big town halls, that we're the ones talking. Effective leaders understand that they're not able to do all of it themselves. And people who want to be high impact, high visibility leaders know they don't want to. because this is another kind of secret weapon: delegating high visibility tasks to lower visibility people. And if you give some of these roles, for instance, talking about the company quarterly numbers at the town hall. That's just one very small example. It doesn't have to be the CTO who shares these numbers, because you're reading numbers off a PowerPoint slide. Anyone can do it. What a statement it would be if it wasn't the CTO reading off these numbers, but somebody, the least among us, a fresh intern, who's given the chance to stand up in front of your working community and share these numbers, or announcing something new you can delegate to somebody else who's on your staff, let's say. It gives people the chance to be seen, to be heard. That was number 2 in our list of what we want in leadership. And boy, is it an engager. It's one less thing for you to do, so that's a win, but it also gives something else of value. You're almost mentoring without mentoring. It gives a task of value to somebody who might not be ready for it yet, but can grow to meet the challenge and to understand how to do these kinds of things. It also increases your image among your staff. If you are magnanimous, if you delegate this, then it shows without talking. It shows that you are a leader that values the progression of your people and that the development of your people. You're showing without saying it, and that speaks so much louder than words. And by the way, in case you were wondering, you don't have to take notes at meetings either. This is something I say, delegate it out. But in fact, you don't even delegate this. Make an AI do this one. I have another wonderful tool in here for people who don't like doing this and who also don't want to delegate this kind of stuff. It's called Jamie. It's a note-taking app that I have on all the time that will summarize the entire meeting. It identifies the speakers, identifies the voices, will do a full word by word run through, and also give a summary, so nobody has to do this. And then you get a nice series of bullet points at the end. So for those leaders who are doing that, please stop doing that and please let the AI do this for you. All right. One last tip is the open mic, also known as the Ask Me Anything session. A lot of leaders are terrified of this. All this is a big town hall with no agenda and a couple of microphones. That's it. And the idea is that leaders hold space for their community, that we sit there as a group of people, and you don't have to present anything. You don't have to announce anything. You're just listening. You also don't have to solve anything. You're not there to come up with solutions for problems. It can sometimes devolve into a bit of a whiny session, but that's just because of built up tension. Once that whiny stuff is out of the way, then people really start getting constructive. You don't have to solve any problems. You just listen. You listen. You are literally hearing what people are saying. And if you feel like taking action afterwards, fantastic. If you can do that in a visible way, fantastic. You're not there to make promises. You're just there to listen and take note and take mental note. Okay, I'm hearing this. I'm hearing this. Thank you for sharing. Move it on. This is really scary because it shows vulnerability. You're literally out there and you are able to be hurt. Vulnerability is a Latin word which means the ability to be wounded, and there's nothing more scary than being faced with a whole bunch of people, your working community, and giving them a microphone and seeing what happens. But it leads to some amazing results, and so the leaders who have the courage to do this, it really pays dividends. If you stick to a couple of very simple rules, then it goes along quite smoothly. Seeding questions, having clear boundaries, what will you and won't you talk about, having some backup, having the ability to cut mics if you have to, making sure it's voluntary, nobody is required to do this, having a way for people who don't like standing up in front of a crowd to have their questions be asked, whether it's in a digital chat forum or whether it's literally a hat going around collecting little bits of paper. Doesn't matter, because not everybody is comfortable standing up in front of a group, but you're seeing the people even who don't want to be seen. That's the real trick here. And make sure it's fun, like festive. Make it interesting. So those are the 5 quick tips. You can literally start doing them tomorrow, and they work. Now, women, Ladies, we do have certain demons. These are some of mine, and it's hard to face them sometimes because we ladies, we like to be perfect. These are some of my demons, and I recognize patterns when I talk to leaders a lot, male and female. But I do particularly find that these are mirrored in female leaders. I tend to take on a lot. I tend to become the workhorse. Well, I'll just do it myself because I'm the one who does it best, kind of thing. And you like doing things your way. It's not the best way or the only way, it's your way. And try to separate that out from this task has to be done. Does it have to be done your way or can it be done a different way? Letting go of the task and not having to claim ownership of everything, because this is a burnout mill. This is a way that we women operate. Saying yes when I really mean no. I think a lot of us are guilty of that, in our private lives as well as our professional lives. We tend to want to exercise control over details, but that will rob us of our ability to remain in control of the high level thing and keep track of our purpose and our vision, which is the most important thing. We sometimes take things personally. I certainly am prone to overwhelm because of points 2, 5, and 6 that I want to do everything myself. Well, a lot of women become overwhelmed and burned out. And this is one of the things we hear from female leaders. And one of the biggest reasons why female leaders in C-suite positions leave is because of overwhelm and lack of balance. We also tend to paper over our own stress and not take care of ourselves and undervalue our own contribution to the process, which is why we work, we tend to spin the wheels a little bit more than we ought to. Okay, well, we're almost at the end of this. So I'm going to, first of all, congratulate guys out there. If there are guys out there, raise your hands, make some noise, throw your names in the chat. Thank you so, so much, because none of this would be possible without your support. You really are an ally in all of this. You help us focus. You help keep us sharp. You keep us laughing. Give us a little bit of perspective. And every time I talk to male colleagues, you tend to give us a little bit of a right frame of mind. And if you have any kind of questions at all, this is a wonderful opportunity to throw it in the chat. So let's see. I see that Leslie is giving us a bit. Is that a comment or a question? Been able to build great relationships with admins via Teams. Never met them in person for 3 years. Definitely buildable via calls and messages, even remote. I think that just being able to talk to them and listening to them. Thank you, Leslie. Absolutely. Excellent point. Yes. You've never even seen these people, but you're still building a community and you're building bridges. That's great. I see Jennifer is saying, I once had a VP who purposely would call upon a second level manager to go in front of the town hall unplanned. To speak of an okay moment. So terrifying for all. Yeah, totally. But I feel like this is cruel because putting somebody giving them a mic and saying like, okay, now start talking without giving them the chance to prepare is kind of not setting them up for success in the way that I would like to see. But great example. And if they rose to the occasion, then more power to them. Great. So as we hit the end, please throw in questions or comments. I love those. The last poll. Thank you so much, Timikia. I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you so much for that. Kathy, do you have the results of that last poll? Awesome. Okay, so this is how we deal with our demons. And how do we deal with it? Well, overwhelming. We quietly process it and make some. Yep. I totally do that. Got it. Thank you. And this is internalizing that, putting our heads down and working it out ourselves, speaking to each team member separately about it, see if it's a pattern. Excellent. Yep. That's great. That's a great way to handle it. Yep. Ignore it, move on. Okay. Now that's interesting that that's so low, because this is something women tend to not ignore things when they hear negative feedback. So that's an interesting one. Okay, and devote a team meeting to talk about team member. Okay, yeah, so that's 15% is really making it about everybody. So bringing everybody into the conversation. This takes a ton of courage. So I tend to do this only when it's such a big elephant in the room that there's no other way to go forward is to involve everybody. I tend to probably do the last one, which is speak to people separately about it privately. And if it's something that we need to talk about, then use that option only as like the last resort, because it's quite confrontational. All right, Kathy, thank you. This is fantastic. Great. All right. I'll just show up those two tools in case you want to see those one more time. I'll also drop some links in there. And then I would love to end with this. Please do join this alliance. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a full year of great talks, great women, great presenters, hopefully also some men talking about these issues and their perspective and their victories and F-ups. Always very, very welcome. Do join. It's going to be monthly. We're trying to do it around the middle of the month every time. We're trying to get people who are in Europe and Pacific and Eastern. So it's going to run in the evening European time and somewhere around the afternoon Eastern, and somewhere kind of like around lunchtime. So like a little lunch and learn for you Californians out there. I don't believe the Californians are awake yet. Or if you are awake, congratulations and welcome to your morning coffee. But this alliance will also have a time slot that everybody technically can join if they want to. So thank you so very much. I'll just also give my LinkedIn if people want to reach out to me. I love answering questions about this kind of stuff online. Oh, great. Thanks, Kathy. You put it in the chat as well. That's wonderful. Thank you. Does anybody have any last questions before I hand it back to HR? You can just raise your hand. Okay. Looks like no. Oh, yes. And the feedback. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, it really does help to hear what people are saying, whether you like this and whether you could suggest anything different in the future. That really, really helps us out a lot. So if there is no question, I don't see any other questions popping up, but if there are no other questions, then I'll just turn it right back over to hr.com.
Thank you, Fiona. This concludes our first webcast of our Women's in Leadership event. I would like to thank Fiona Passantino for joining us, as well as all of you. If you would like to view this webcast again, the recording and slides will be available on hr.com on our archived webcast pages. Check out your hr.com account for your credits. Those will arrive within 2 business days, and we also send out an email with the credit information. I would like to remind the audience to fill out a quick feedback survey that will open on a new tab on your screen. It only takes a few minutes, and your valuable input is key to improving the quality of our webcasts. Next up at 10 a.m., we have Making Connections Count, the power of meaningful networking to unlock opportunities and accelerate your success. This is presented by Christina Cleary. To join the next session, click on over to the hr.com event auditorium. We hope to see you there and enjoy the rest of the event.